Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want you to play this game with me here a little bit, just kind of as a counter proposal to. This is not a video about the Image Comics Union, but it's a some of the pushback when I've done videos on this, when other people have talked about this, has been, well, why do you dislike this? Isn't better working conditions good for everyone? It's one of those kind of goofy arguments that like you can't argue with. It's like, why would you argue against clean air? Who doesn't want clean air? Of course, everybody wants clean air. The argument isn't about clean air. It's what is involved to get to that place. What are you going to give up? And is the goal of clean air even realistic? Is that something that could happen? If you ask somebody, hey, would you rather have clean air or dirty air? Everybody's going to say clean air. Nobody's going to be like, you know what? I kind of like that smoky taste in my lungs. I like it when I cough really heavily and look down at a handkerchief or a tissue and it's just filled with blood. That nothing gets me going more than that. I love that. Everybody's going to see clean air. But if you say, hey, do you want clean air? All you're going to have to do is cut off your arms. They're like, whoa, wait a minute, hang on. The bad air doesn't sound so bad all of a sudden. Like, how would I survive if I didn't? I mean, it's one of those things where you got to kind of get to the real meat of what's going on. In this case, it's like, don't you want better working conditions for comics? I mean, sure, yes. What does that mean? I have a feeling it means different things to different people. But play this out for me. Here's an alternate perspective, because one of the things that is it's the piece nobody's really talking about, is that this image union, it's encompassing 12 people, 10 of which are pushing for the union. Hundreds or thousands on Twitter are cheering it on. But it's, at the end of the day, this is for 10 people. And the idea is that, hey, this 12 people, if it incorporates this dozen people, it will start there, but very quickly it will spread to the other comic companies, except history shows us that's extremely unlikely on multiple fronts. The biggest one being a lot of these other comic companies. I mean, Image is, in terms of comic market share, third. Okay, so if they're third biggest, and we're talking about 12 employees, if we start tackling company number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, your total employee set is going to be, you're still under 50. You're probably under 30 if you're talking about those companies. How many people are sitting around IDW these days? I don't know. Anyway, you're not talking about many. Now, Image has kind of a different model, and it's different from Dark Horse and IDW and others, so maybe there's more play. But the point is, we're not talking about much. So if you're really going to make some headway with this, you're going to have to go the other direction, which is meaning going up to market share company number 1 or 2. That's Marvel and DC. If you're going Marvel and DC, you're going to get more employees. Still not that many, all things considered. But you're also going to have to crack Disney, and you're going to have to crack, Warner Media, AT&T, Discovery. You may get there with DC, maybe, but that's going to be a very hard nut to crack. There's zero chance of getting there with Disney. I'm sorry, there's no chance. Disney will crush you. There's a story going on right now about people trying to unionize at Starbucks, and that the corporation is pulling out all the stops to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, it may still, I don't know, whether you're pro or con union, by the way. None of what I'm saying is a pro-union or con-union argument. This is a reality argument that I'm making. But let's assume for the moment. Let's say, hey, you're sitting around a bar, you're there with your other Image coworkers, and you're like, man, I hate the working conditions at Image. I hate the way that Eric Larson's always walking around with no pants on. I hate it. I know, I'm sure that is not what happens. But anyway, well, or maybe. But anyway, you're like, that Eric Stevenson guy and always picking up co-eds. I mean, that's unsubstantiated. Pay no attention to what I just said. But you're talking, you got this, you're sitting around, you're grumbling about how crappy your job is. And somebody there at the table is like, hey, you know what we should do? Let's form a union. And we'll roll it out on social media, and we'll get, Bleeding Cool and a bunch of our pals to report on it, because there's a bunch of people who are at CBR and Bleeding Cool and other places, and they'll report on it. We'll get a bunch of the other creators and others say, yeah, you go, hell yeah, and they'll retweet it, and we'll kind of shame/push Image into doing this. You're sitting around this table. You're like, yeah, this is great. Let's do it. And you're like, and this plan, we'll put it out there, and then 6 months later, we'll have a union of the 10 of us, and then we'll demand change. If they don't demand change, then we'll strike, and they won't be able to get their comics out, and then maybe 2 years later we'll get. At some point, if I'm sitting at that table and I've got my beer in my hand and I'm thinking to myself, I hate my job, I hate Image, I'd be like, hey guys, okay, interesting idea. All right, hey, you with the giant holes in your ears, your ear flaps are kind of, you're getting so animated they're flapping around, and that's it's very distracting. But this is an interesting idea, unionize. But here's a much faster, quicker, better way to create a better system. Are you ready? All right, everybody, are you ready? All right, there's 12 of us. That's it. And let's assume for the moment, of the 12 of us, we all have invaluable skills that if we were to leave, if we were to exit Image right now, it would screw up the entire company. Nothing could be produced. They would immediately fall. Boom or Dark Horse or IDW or Valiant or one of these other companies, Aftershock, they would immediately take us out. And we hold a lot of power here. By the way, you may be already detecting the flaw in what I'm saying, but we'll get to that in a minute. We have a lot of power here. We know the creators. A lot of them are on our side. They want us to have better conditions too. And, we know how the comics get made, and we're holding all the keys to this company. We can certainly go unionize. And then we could fight. We could try and get, Eric Stevenson, Todd McFarlane, others. I mean, somebody at the table's like, yeah, I saw that Jim Valentino said there should be a union. We're like, yeah. Anybody else that's currently active with the company saying that? What's Jim? Oh, Jim Lee's not with the company anymore. What's Todd McFarlane think of that? Oh, probably not too keen on this idea, but okay. Here's what we'll do. We, as a collective unit, the 10 of us, we're going to take all of our contacts, all of our relationships with the creatives, all of these books that are getting queued up, and we're going to go, are you ready? We're going to go and we're going to have a meeting with Boom. The other people at the table are like, what? Wait, what? What does that have to do with anything? Like, yeah, we're going to go to a competitor of Image, and we're basically going to say, hey, Image sucks ass. We're not paid well. The working conditions are terrible. Eric Larson won't put pants on. It's just bad. It's so bad here. We are proposing that we, in mass, all of us, we quit and we come work for you. Boom. Boom's like, well, I mean, maybe we don't need all of you people. And where would we find the money to pay all you people? It's like, hey, here's the deal. Because we are so invaluable to the company, and because it's an at-will state that we can just walk out whenever we want, we will basically bring relationships, books, and know-how about the industry. We have the power of knowing how this whole business works. We'll bring that to you, and in doing so, screw up Image, and, and basically you will immediately leapfrog Image and become the number 3 publisher, get all that money, and basically deal them a devastating blow. And we're happy to do this because screw this company, screw Image. They're terrible to work with. We hate them. Let's go do that. We're gonna call Nick there. We're gonna go to Dynamite. It doesn't have to be Boom. It could be any of these companies. We're gonna go there and we're gonna say, and all we want in return is pay bump. And we want, we want better representation. We just want, here's our 9 demands, including the crazy last one. We want some of these. We want you guys to treat us well. And we're going to fish this offer out to a couple different companies, confidentially, of course. What I'm talking about right now has a major flaw to it. That major flaw is simply this: of the 10 employees, unlikely any of them have these invaluable skills that I'm talking about. Now, by saying that, I don't mean that they're dumb. I don't mean that they're not doing any work. I'm just meaning chances are they don't hold the contracts of creators. They don't hold these tight relationships. If in mass they all walked over to Boom, it's not like Reminder and Brubaker and Aaron and Cates and all these other people are like, oh crap, well we better go. Although, in fairness, if you did have these people kind of either go to a smaller company, let's say everybody moved over to Aftershock and said, you know what, go get a loan for $500,000, pony up some cash that you can pay us for, the next year. We're going to all come over. We're going to bring all of our know-how. We're going to strike a blow against Image in the process, because suddenly they're going to have no employees. They're going to have to go out and refill these positions. Unfortunately, they probably could do that very quickly. But we're going to basically dent their operations and come over to you. And in the process, we're going to tweet a bunch about how Image is so crappy and so anti-worker that creators should be ashamed of working with them. But we're very willing to accept their projects over here at your company, over at Aftershock or Boom or wherever. And we're basically going to guilt the Donny Cates and the Remenders and Brewbakers and others. We're going to guilt them into moving over here with us. Well, that could work. Again, the challenge here is that in order to pull a move like that, you need to have some leverage. But in fairness, it would be disruption to work if all these people left at once. It would be clever if one of these other companies, be it Boom or Aftershock or somebody, said, okay, let's try this. Let's basically, it would be a very adversarial move to a competitor. Comics typically don't work exactly that way, but there's no reason they can't. And interestingly enough, if it was positioned as workers' rights, creating a better working environment, getting to a place where, people were respected and treated better, you're not going to see a bunch of people take the piss out of these guys on Twitter because, they're taking a stand for workers' rights. You're basically going to have to say, no, we think it would be better if you stayed at this company that treated you poorly. Nobody's going to be willing to do that. So from a PR standpoint, you'd be pretty well protected if you made such a move. But again, this is all interesting fantasy talk, and I think me putting a proposal like that out in front of my 9 other coworkers while we're drinking beer would probably be met with a lot of confused stares and other things. But if we're talking about something that's actually going to make a sizable, powerful impact, something like that is more likely to create immediate change, force the hand of the industry to actually do things differently than forming a union. Because the problem is this union is going to take a long time to incorporate, a long time to ratify, if you're even able to pull it off. And if you do, all you've done is given Image and leadership there somewhere between 4 to 6 months to find your replacements, and guaranteed they will. And because the problem is we're talking 10 people. It's too small. If you were talking like 3,000 people, then you'd have something that's much harder to accomplish. But if Image really had to, they're the number 3 publisher. That's attractive for a lot of people who wanted to get into comics. Whether you like Image or don't like Image or whatever you think about Image or whatever actually goes on around behind the scenes or how much they're paying, Image is still seen, it's perceived as a desirable publisher to work for. And they could fill those 10 jobs. I mean, ridiculously enough, of the thousands of people on Twitter who have said, you go and hell yeah to this whole union thing. If Image suddenly canned all 10 of these people and said, we're hiring 10 people, a lot of the very same people who are cheering these people on would be like, yeah, I'd like a job in comics. Image, yep, that would be pretty good. I'll take it. They could fill those positions almost immediately. The union is going to take, again, long time to incorporate. It's relying on the company kind of being guilted into doing this, which it's unlikely that they will. They will drag their feet as much as they can. They can easily replace people. And let's say they do. Image is like, you know what? We need people who aren't so mouthy, so we're going to replace all 10. There'd definitely be a bunch of people on Twitter who'd be like, how dare you? I'm never buying an Image comic again. And then, you'd have this new issue of Saga would come out and, people would buy it because, Saga. Who doesn't want Saga? It's the problem is it's the elephant in the room, the man behind the curtain has been revealed in that Twitter likes and that kind of support really doesn't translate to money and sales and any kind of anything. So you could pretty much bite that bullet and be fine. That's the problem. That's the problem for this whole thing. It's why the union, this long-term plan of the union, in its best case scenario, Image Comics decides to accept it and put it in place, and you get like a symbolic victory. But again, like I've discussed in other videos, I don't know that that actually improves things in comics. If you truly want to improve things in comics, you're going to have to take a much more aggressive adversarial position. And that would be, basically shanking the company by going and empowering someone else and then, working it from inside. Again, the only problem with all this is you got to be somebody who has some game to actually bring the value in order for that shanking to be meaningful. I don't think that's the case here. But it does open up this one question I guess I would have, which is at what point, and I feel like we're getting close to it, at what point do some of these small companies actually start going for the jugular? Because comics is small enough that if you took on a very aggressive attack and you went to go seize control of the market through techniques that are used with tech startups daily, you could actually do some real damage pretty easily. At what point does that start happening? Because it feels like we're overdue for one of these small publishers to go, you know what, I got nothing to lose. Let's go ahead and try an offensive strategy and see where that takes us. Like I said, I'd be sitting there with my beer and everybody would be looking at me like, but the people on Facebook said a union is what's important for workers' rights. And I would say, well, you may be right. I mean, I'm working at this company, so I don't even have enough money to afford this beer that I'm drinking right now. Who's paying? And then we get real awkward real quick. Anyway, there you go. Let's have an aggressive strategy for a change. That's what I think. Thanks for listening.